Good evening, and welcome to another episode of A24 On The Rocks. I am your host this week, Blaze Fitzgerald Ryan the First, and tonight I am drinking a combination of Coors Light on the rocks, because it was on sale, remember those sales kids, and water. Next to my bottom is...
Hi, my name is Cole William Whitlaw Gibson. Tonight I am sipping Saint Bloody Mary Moonshine made by Burnt Church Distillery. And up next we have...
That sounds delicious. Today, my name is Kelly, just as it has been every single day up till today. I am drinking a drink that I'm going to let Eric explain.
Hi, my name is Eric, and I'm drinking a Nordic Summer, which is made with Norden Aquavit, Aperol Spritz, just Aperol, sorry, and lime juice. And we just got back from Norway, so we are drinking some Aquavit.
Just a little bit of a flex there.
Up next, we have our guest.
I'm Caitlin. I am Blaze's sister. I am drinking Yesway Rosé, and it was delivered via Uber Eats.
Woohoo!
Very fancy.
Sponsorship!
A24 On The Rocks.
Uber Eats, I'll take it. So before we get into this week's movie, I wanted to discuss with our guest, my sister, the aforementioned Caitlin Aaron Ryan. So we always like to use our full names. I do. So, Caitlin, please let me know what you know about A24 as A24 as a production company, the movies that you like by them, general movies that you do like, and what's your relationship with movies?
I love Obvious Child. I didn't realize that it was an A24 movie. Midsummer was cool. What was the last one they did?
The Northman?
Zola was great. Really was just so excited to see a movie based off text message or Twitters.
And so, do you have any background in film or anything like that?
Do I? I am an experimental filmmaker. Currently, I shoot on 16 mil with my Bolex. I'm currently working on a project about being Irish and an Irish dancer for a really long time. So slowly making my way through that. But film's expensive, so you know.
Ain't that the truth? Well, maybe we'll see you at Sundance one day.
Too underground for that.
The movie that we're reviewing tonight is a 2014 film called Obvious Child, written and directed by Gillian Robespierre, which is a last name I am in love with. It started out as a short film, and then they eventually turned it into a feature-length film, which premiered at Sundance. And because of its popularity, it got a full theater release in June of 2014. The quick elevator pitch about this movie is it's all about a young, struggling stand-up comic named Donna, played by Jenny Slate. And it's basically moment after moment of car crashes in her life that happen and how she deals with it. You know, starts out with getting dumped and all the way up to the big controversial issue of the movie that I'm sure we'll get into shortly. So I wanted to start off with the beginning of the film like we usually do. This is technically a romantic comedy, so it kind of doesn't have the same... I mean, there's cool things about the script and everything like that, but as far as like deep themes, I'd rather keep this like off the cuff, you know, not so many like direct questions. But as we always do start out with, we talk about the beginning of the film. And this is a very different beginning of the film than we've had in any of the other movies that we've reviewed so far. It starts up with a stand-up set in a dreary Brooklyn bar. I've never been to New York City, but I can imagine that's what a lot of comedy clubs look there. So Jenny Slate, the infamous Jenny Slate, who got fired from SNL, does a whole rip about her discharge, would be the best way to put it. And then about her bedroom problems with her boyfriend. So I'm going to open the floor with Eric. Eric, what did you think about this opening where it was just a stand-up skit?
See, for me, it felt very forced, like a lot of forced humor at the start. When I watch stand-up, I kind of have to be in a whole like mood and ambiance to like watch and even see stand-up too. And setting that floor, that makes me laugh a lot more, I think. And so, I went into this movie, thinking it's a movie about abortion, and we start out with a stand-up skit, and so I don't know, I didn't laugh much. That's it felt very forced. So,
Okay. Kelly, same question.
Yeah, it would be same for me. I just found it to be like I'm supposed to be laughing, but it was unfunny to me, which then makes me feel like I'm missing out on something, or like I'm not getting what I'm supposed to be getting out of it. And that's an interesting way to be introduced into a film where I'm immediately a little bit like standoffish about it. I found it a little bit painfully unfunny and forced, the kinds of jokes that she made, both at the beginning and continues throughout the film. It wasn't my kind of humor, and it was pretty constant. So that was my first impression.
Okay, that's very fair. Cole, what did you think of the beginning, and then what did it set a tone for the character played by Jenny Slate, whose name is Donna, by the way?
Yes. So I definitely the start of the movie was interesting and rough, and like I have the same thing that Eric and Kelly just said about the being thrown into the mix, and like the humor and stuff just didn't land for me. But once you got past that point, and you really start learning who Donna is and Jenny Slate, you start understanding that's just like kind of her like almost coping mechanism, and how she does her humor, and that's how she releases a lot of the things that she holds up inside of her and she wants to discuss. So I definitely start understanding her better. And then the scene right after that where she's in the bathroom was pretty brutal. That was a pretty hard scene to watch in terms of just how terrible that dude was. Like, fuck that guy. That was my first note, was just, he's an asshole. I don't fucking like this guy. I don't know I don't know what's going on. But that was my first impression of that startup.
Yeah. And you know what? I have to say, kind of agree with everyone so far. Caitlin, something that I liked about this film compared to other romantic comedies that revolve around pregnancy, when you think of like Knocked Up and Juno and stuff like that, they feel almost, the worlds don't seem...
Get to answer the first
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yes, of course. Yes, I'm sorry. Caitlin, what did you feel about the opening stand-up?
I gotta go. I think it was meant to be awkward. Like, I don't think it's supposed to be funny at all, Like, it kind of sets the tone of, like, she's failing, or she feels like she's failing. So it's, like, I don't think it's, like, necessarily, like, meant to be funny. I think it's, like, she's in a really awkward place in her life, and, like, maybe it's more of a conceptual idea of not being funny, but maybe more like empathetic, because you kind of feel bad for her.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And then, it kind of makes sense because her whole life comes crashing down immediately afterwards when her boyfriend... Does he say that? Was it like he said he cheated on her? Like, I didn't really understand it. Was it a throuple?
He was giving her a lot of like bullshit answers first, but
I really did not like that guy. That guy, he like is breaking up with her, then says he's like cheated on her with another girl that they know. Mm-hmm. Also, like the whole entire time is basically like blaming her for why he had to cheat on her because, and then like saying that he's breaking up with her because you talked about our sex life on your stand-up, and it's like, dude, you fucking cheated on her, and then are like trying to blame her for cheating on her with this other girl, and I'm like, fuck this guy. So really made me mad right off the bat. But yeah, he cheated on her. It was a weird situation.
Well, that's kind of an interesting point. How would you guys feel if your significant other was a stand-up comedian or someone in the public light and they talked about stuff that maybe you didn't want them to talk about? Would that be something that would, cause you to maybe not act the exact same way, but maybe feel that resentment and shame?
I think I'd know what I was getting into if I was going to start dating a stand-up comic.
That's what I was going to say, is you really got to know yourself and what you're comfortable with before you pursue a relationship with somebody who does that for a living. For me, I wouldn't be able to do that at all. For other people, though, you just got to be able to deal with that kind of situation.
I like that.
I
I
think
like
you
that.
have to be very okay with public and private. But I feel like when you're in that sort of situation, like, it depends, right? It's like, I think if you're thinking about like more traditional stand-up, that's all up for grabs, you know?
Yeah, you should write a consent form first, or like what you guys like. I don't know. I'd be on my best behavior if I dated a comic. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I would just accept that, hey, parts of me are going to be used probably in the stand-up set, like, and I think it would be unfair to ask a stand-up comic to not use things from their personal life. So,
Well, yeah, and I think you need to have the mindset of what everyone should have a mindset for comedians is like that person's out there to tell a joke and entertain people. Like everything they say is not with like ill, intent or anything like that. Like they're there to tell jokes and entertain people. And if you're gonna date someone, you need to understand that they're not. It's not like they're not taking direct jabs at you to try and belittle you, or at least you hope not. Or at least like good comedians and good comics don't do that. They're not, attacking a individual or group of people. But a lot of people take comics way too.
They're constantly attacking groups of people.
Yeah, but it's like it's like that's not like in a malicious intent though, right? Like they're doing it to entertain people.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I guess
I
we
don't
could
know
all
if,
be
like,
Chris
Dave
Rock. I
Chappelle
guess.
attacking trans people is like cool, but that happens.
Yeah,
I think
Group of
different
people.
fair enough.
Yeah.
different strokes for different
I
comics,
guess
but
I'll just
go
be
with,
Will Smith and go smack people around then.
to go with what you're saying, though, Cole, it's very obvious by her reaction to his reaction of her making jokes about that kind of stuff is that she wasn't trying to hurt him or anything, and she obviously cared about him a whole lot, and then has a really difficult time with the breakup. So it's not like I agree with you that it wasn't coming out of malicious intent as her as a comic.
Yeah, and then to piggyback off of that, I do think that her comedy throughout the film, at least as a stand-up comic, and then even within the film, a lot of her comedy comes from her own vulnerabilities, her steadiness to handle life's issues with a punchline, which is a lot where a lot of us try to get through life is, I feel. So yeah, I think maybe he should have taken it like a man, or if he had a serious problem with her talking about their sex life, maybe cheating on her isn't the answer.
Define taking it like a man.
Just taking it on the chin, letting it roll off him. I guess we're talking about every amendment along the way to the 14th on this episode, so.
We could have just set water off a duck's back,
Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to gender it.
I'm really
I
going to
didn't
enjoy the brother-sister banter
I know, this is
episode.
awesome.
I'm really trying to walk the straight and narrow. Sorry, I said straight. Oh, fuck. So, anyways, back to my previous question about where I compare this to other romantic comedies where pregnancy isn't involved. I want to talk to you guys about the realism, especially that beginning breakup scene. I feel like in movies in Juno and Knocked Up, like the breakup scene happens like halfway through the film, and it's pretty easily remedied by the end, by some sort of deus ex machina. But for Donna, it really seems like, I think we've all been through breakups here, and I really feel like she goes through all 5 stages of grief in a short amount of time. So I just wanted to ask you guys about how real this movie felt as far as, a lived-in world, I guess. Does anyone have a comment on that, or agree, disagree?
Yeah, I mean, I really think this movie was a pretty good like slice of life, like more of a reality type film about just kind of the breakup and the drama. Obviously, things are always dramatized and stuff, especially when you get the comedian thrown in the mix. But I thought it was much more of a realistic portrayal of a lot of the bullshit that you deal with, especially during breakups and stuff. And it wasn't just, instantly everything's better and this guy's perfect and we're gonna fall in love and go right off in the sunset and stuff. I think it was just like a more realistic approach of this woman's going through a lot, and like this guy that shows up and he seems like he could be good for her, but obviously she's got a lot of things she's got to work through first before they can move on to that.
Yeah, I was gonna say after the first initial stand-up scene, when we started getting more into her character and like who she is, I got a lot more interested in the film. I liked her as a character. There was one thing that was extremely unrealistic though: $500 a month for rent in Brooklyn, even in 2014. Get the fuck out.
Well, yeah, I got some other things that I got a problem with on the realism.
Well, no, I do feel like she was a realistic character, and this was a realistic portrayal of what one woman might go through to decide to get an abortion.
As far as the realism of like the breakup goes and her reaction to it, I thought that the relationship with her friend coming over to check on her and like offering to like cuddle with her and stay the night over in like her bed, like that was pretty realistic of how you might console one of your girlfriends if she was really going through it. As well as I got a big kick out of her standing outside of his house. That scene where she's sitting there and she's saying, if they cross the street and my third sip, and I was like, I think that's very realistic, and I like that they portrayed that of this feeling of like you're just lost and you're looking for anything to kind of like convince you to do one thing or the other. I got a kick out of all of that kind of stuff. I think they did a good job with the craziness that you can feel when the rug is kind of swept out from under your feet.
Caitlin, do you want to weigh in on that? I didn't want to move on without your permission.
You want me to get real controversial real quick?
Let's do it.
As someone who's had an abortion, it's the realest thing I've ever seen on a movie before. And it's just so touching and so close to real life of going through it. I mean, of course it's a movie, right? But like to see someone represented like that and making the right decision for their lives, like I just thought it's such an incredible portrayal. Because like you kind of see the ebbs and flows of the emotion, like, and like you see her support system. We don't have to skip forward to the end to talk about it, but I just think it's like one of the realest movies I've ever seen. I also feel that way about Juno. I think like in my line of politics and being pro-choice, like in the film Obvious Child, it shows the depiction of like a woman who's like totally unready to have a baby and like is so lost, and that's the only thing that makes sense to her. And with Juno, it's like it's much more, you see like much more of a domestic life where you don't see a domestic life at all in Obvious Child. It's like she's go, 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 go. And I think those are like two interesting movies to compare to, because like a lot of movies or like TV shows, like something like The Secret Lives of American Teenagers was definitely like pro-life propaganda, where it's like they set up these decisions and then it's sort of like what's great is like in the realm of cinematic history, when a woman gets pregnant, the whole movie surrounds the pregnancy, and then it's like this journey, and like we've seen it 1,000 times. And what I think is so great about Obvious Child is that like it breaks a lot of tropes.
Yes.
And like you can still have the same journey in decision making. And I just think it's really groundbreaking in that way.
Yeah, Cole?
Yeah, I was just going to say, going off of what you just said, the whole time I'm watching this movie and they're talking about the abortion and they're like building up to it on Valentine's Day and everything, the whole entire time in the back of my mind, I'm like, some bullshit thing's going to happen where like the guy's going to swoop in, he's going to change their mind, they're going to end up not getting the abortion, and it'll be like, oh, thank God we didn't get the abortion, we wanted this child, I wanted to be a grandfather, all this bullshit. But then, thank God they stuck to it and they actually went through with what, is the right decision for her at that time in her life. And I was like, almost like relieved at the end when they went through with the abortion, because I was like, thank you, like finally a film that isn't about, someone getting pregnant at the wrong time, and it's like them working through it, and then it'll be perfect at the end because we decided to keep the child and we have a great life and yada yada yada. It's like that's not the real world. That's not how life works. So I was very it was nice to see that, I guess, portrayed in that film.
Well, yeah, and exactly, because like when Caitlin compares it to Juno very aptly, and then in Knocked Up, likewise, it feels like the opposite happens in Obvious Child, where two people that clearly aren't ready to have a kid, they somehow pull it out of their ass in the last 20 minutes that they're ready. They gloss over abortion. I believe they call it a schmortion. And then they kind of just gloss over and they plan on having the kid. And Caitlin, you're 100% right. They do a really good job at setting up Donna's life, that she has a roommate. The greatest bookstore of all time. Hold on. It's called Unoppressive Non-Imperialist Books, which I thought was one of the greatest.
The best.
that was like, that made me laugh a lot.
Good.
But yeah, she's losing her job. Her parents are successful and supportive, but it doesn't seem like they like constantly send her money. They kind of like let her out on her own, the kind of the same way that our mom did for us. So I really feel like it's someone who's never been in the position where I've had a partner who had an abortion or considered it. I feel like it really puts me in the shoes of someone who makes it as a serious life choice and not as, the propaganda wheels tells us that, it's murdering babies. No, it's actually the complete opposite. And just like Cole, I think that the white Christian frat guy who's a business in business school and their mom's favorite student, I really felt like it was setting itself up to just be another movie where abortion is, talked about, but it never goes through. So I'm really glad that they did it, and they did it with style and grace and a little bit of comedy. So, does anyone else, since we're already jumping in on this,
I don't think they did it with grace, though. Like, I think that decision's so messy, and that's what I liked about it. And where, like, all these other movies, they're, like, so less messy, and, like, I kind of, like, appreciated, like, the realness of it.
I didn't mean grace in that sense. I meant the grace that they gave the subject.
Oh, okay.
No, it was sloppy and ugly. But, so...
That's his life.
Eric and Kelly, what are your thoughts on abortion? And Eric, why are you happy Roe v. Wade got turned down? No, I'm just kidding.
I'm very pro-choice, and I think it's a woman's decision. It's her body. And this movie did a great job of showing that, people don't just get abortions like they're ordering breakfast. That it's actually a big decision, and there's a lot that goes into it. If you're at the wrong point in your life, you can't take care of a child, you can't, financially support it, or, you're just not ready for a child, this should be your option, It's just very simple. I mean, like, if a pro-life person's listening to this podcast, I'm not going to go through, like, A through Z reasons of why they should be pro-choice, because I'm probably never going to change their mind. But, I'm pro-choice, and, yeah.
I was pro-life, and then I listened to an episode of a movie podcast. Here's my story.
Yeah, no shit.
Stranger things have happened.
And the weird thing, they were drinking. So
Right.
So, Kelly, you want to weigh in on the abortion talk? I know this was the shadow hanging over everyone's head. I tried to wait till later, but Caitlin really wanted to bust it open. So.
Well, Caitlin made a great point of where she is in her life and the kind of life that she's living, and they definitely center us in her world and what kind of decision someone like that would make. And that's the whole thing, is it is her choice, and it is every woman's choice. Not to stand on a soapbox here, but the way that they even kind of just show her immediately, she knows what she's going to do, but she still has to live with that, she still has to wait it out until she can even get a procedure done. She has to set this time aside to do so. She has to find the money to do so. It's all compounding, and I'm glad that they shed light on all of that kind of experience. And it's like what you said, Blaze, it's done gently. Like, it's not a gentle subject in any way, but they do it with so much care that it is really nice to see. And they don't sugarcoat it, nor do they over dramatize it, for entertainment value or something. Like, the way that they handled it, I think, is really respectful, and I appreciated it a lot.
Yeah, there's something that's almost sweet to it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a romantic comedy. I think that was kind of the point of it, right? Anyways, my probably my favorite scene in the entire movie was when they were getting lunch after he dropped off the book at her mom's house, which, again, kind of, I said it was guided realism, but that's kind of weird that she just happens to be her mom happens to be his teacher. But they go to the restaurant, and she plans on telling him that she's getting an abortion. There's a couple of roadblocks. She doesn't know how to say it. My favorite line in the movie was she's looking at herself in the mirror and she goes, can I have an abortion and then dessert? Can I have your abortion and then split dessert?
That was a good scene.
I had to pause the movie. I was laughing so hard. And then she comes back out of the bathroom and she sees the old people, and he tells the story about, how sweet they were and he wanted to be a grandfather. So again, you guys can totally omit from answering this it's your personal opinion, but if any of you have either had an abortion or someone close to you has had an abortion, what was it like telling the people in your life? Was that, again, back to realism, is that kind of like the same awkwardness, or was it more direct? Was it, something you found out 9 years later?
I think we should let Caitlin go here.
Oh no, let's reverse.
Okay. Personally, no one that I know in my life has had an abortion. They haven't told me, and that's their choice not to tell me. So I don't know, telling people, I'm sure, is a huge deal because it's a very personal choice, and it's a medical choice. It's about your body. So you shouldn't have to tell anyone if you don't want to, but if you do, then I'm sure it's a big deal for people that do,
Cole, any thoughts?
Yeah. I only know of one person, a very like a close friend of mine. Yeah, it's like Eric says, it's a medical thing. Like, it's super. I imagine it's a very hard subject. Also, you don't know how certain people will respond because of the way that they view the world and how it goes through their eyes and stuff. And it is, it's also a personal decision. Like, this is your decision. You have no reason to tell anyone if you don't want to. Like, you don't have to tell anyone, but it is such a heavy thing that I know, for myself, not that I've ever had an abortion or anything like that, but other heavy things that, you deal with. It's good to talk to your friends, or good to talk to those people that you can trust and care about and love and stuff like that. So, but yeah, if I was in that situation where I was going to get an abortion with the person that I had a one-night stand with, and we're out to lunch and at an Italian restaurant, it's like, I don't know this person. I have no idea what they're going to do. And like, I don't know. I could not do that. I don't think I could tell them, like, no way, especially if they're doing the whole old person and you tell them and they pull a 180 and they're going to fight you to, the death for their child and stuff. It's like, whoa, man, this is not what this
especially
is all
if
about,
the person is going to business school, they seem more conservative, like they're wearing slip-ons. I would be like, if I was in that situation, I don't know, I probably would guess that this guy might have some thoughts on the subject. So
yeah.
And he's never peed outside, so that was
he farted the first time he peed outside.
Yeah, okay.
Right in her face.
Talking about
Weird
not
choice.
realism, the guy's never peed outside in his whole entire life. That's mind-boggling. That makes
I'll tell you
zero sense.
how many times I've peed outside.
Right?
That's actually true. Caitlin is a serial pisser.
It helps my plants with the pH balance.
That's fair.
God, Mother Earth taking one for the team.
This was something that I don't feel comfortable talking about on a podcast for everybody.
Totally.
I appreciate the thoughts and opinions of everyone that is speaking with me right now.
1 second, I'm going to yell at my unaborted child.
Well, while she's yelling at her child, I just want to talk about how the first time we meet Max, he's describing what he's doing for his job, and he literally in 2014 is explaining what multiplayer video games are to people, and that took me right out of this movie. This movie fucking sucks. Multiplayer video games have existed since the 90s or even the 80s, and then we're in 2014, and he's talking about how this is brand new technology.
I felt
Trash
that.
Phil.
I
Pack
felt
it up.
that. And
Back it up.
Frat bro, like salesman explanation of what I do for a living. You ever heard of gaming?
Yeah, you know when you talk to a person on the phone, but you're doing that with video games from across, and it's like, that's multiplayer. This movie was made in 2014. It does not claim to be made from like the 80s, so. Anyhow, now that you're back from your child, I was on my video game rant.
I lied. It wasn't here yet. But yeah, I'm on board with that video game rant. He was homeschooled, clearly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, guy, he's a special. Max is special.
Yeah, so my roundabout broad question was basically about the scene at the restaurant where she really wants to tell him that she's about to go through with an abortion in a week or so, and how the movie is based in reality and about like real people, real lives, real experiences. And my big broad general question was, if you have gone through something like that, is it something that it's awkward, or is it something you can freely say? Is it something that you wouldn't tell the person for 9 years, et cetera, et cetera? Like, was her response based in reality? How's that?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a hard thing to get out of your mouth and a hard thing to say, and then you have to be ready for like that person's reception, especially a one-night stand, because like, how much do you know about that person, right? Me personally, it took a while, but then like once I started talking to more women about it, I actively decided to be more vocal about it, because statistics are 1 in 4 women have had one, and like if they want to keep that to themselves, I totally respect that. Like, I have the utmost respect, and because it's a hard decision. It's it's not easy going through like having a baby or having an abortion. I've done both. It's so traumatic on your body, and
I bet.
It's hard. I actually, when things started, the papers leaked recently from the Supreme Court. Mm-hmm. I posted on my Instagram. I was just like, hey, like, if you want to share your story, share it. And like, I've had so many like women text me, like, and some said they could share the story and some said they couldn't. Like, one of my friends who was a dude, he like drove 3 of his friends to go get an abortion just so they could go to college. Another one is pregnant now, but had an abortion so she could go to grad school. And there's all these like different situations. And I think like I just decided to become more vocal about it because like one of my very close friends that I've grown up with is like more on the conservative side, and we have like very like long dialogues where we can talk about these things. And it's like, sometimes it's me on one end getting misinformation, not specifically about abortion, but it's like, one time we had this like really long talk about abortion, and then like I told her all the facts I knew. And then like, just to balance that out, I remember we were standing in line at the farmer's market and they were like, abolish police. And I was like, hell yeah. And then she was like, read the thing, and she's like, oh, I would have signed it, but they didn't have a plan. And I was like, oh, you're right. So it's like this ebb and flow. And I think I'm just like really grateful for a relationship like that. And like, so many people shout at each other. And I just like, at the end of the day, like, I know like I am pro-choice and like very like liberal, but I still keep people around me that don't agree with me because they might change my mind and I might change their mind. And I think that's really important. And that's what I kind of liked about the movie Obvious Child, is that like, it's a very sweet message in that way. And I would love to see a double feature of Juno and Obvious Child, like back to back. I think that would make an incredible dialogue.
Yeah. I really like that Juno comparison. I think that's a pretty good spot on one.
I also, like, for example, like, I have a t-shirt that says thank God for abortion with, like, a dove flying out. And I also follow, like, Catholics for pro-choice. And, like, I've been really active with that just because it's, like, because abortion, like, statistically didn't even start until the 1600s when it started being illegal. That's because so many popes were fucking and they needed to handle the situation.
Jeez.
No.
That's what happened.
Hey, Pope's got to play, baby. Pope's got to play.
Jeez.
So,
Conversation to be having with my brother.
right?
Do you think a pope has ever had sex in the Pope Mobile?
Of course.
Absolutely.
Hope so.
Oh, wait, it's
Roadhead
Chris
at
Did you
Plexiglass.
say I hope so?
Nope. She said I
Doesn't
Pope
sound
so.
like it.
I pope so.
I sure hope so.
All right, 10 Hail Marys for all of you after this.
Yeah, fuck. I did grow up Catholic. Sorry,
Yeah.
Pope.
Us too.
Da-da-da.
Me and Caitlin both grew up Catholic.
12 years
Yep.
Catholic school.
I was confirmed. I did not go to Catholic school, though. I just went to catechism, but yeah. Anyway, Obvious Child.
Yes. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank you for the very heartfelt answer. I appreciate that. Time for another unrealistic part of the movie, in my opinion, where you have divorced parents and they're both the good guy. They're both very supportive in everything that she does, from her stand-up career to her life choices. And then when she brings up abortion, especially to her mother, that was, again, one of those moments where in another film, I think the mom would have turned into, like, the bad guy. At least that's what I thought it was going towards, because there's a whole big scene where she was in a cab and, she's on the verge of tears because she's so lost that she goes to her mom. And I thought that was going to, like, be a catalyst. But her mom ends up telling her a story about her own abortion that I really didn't understand because did she live, like, why was there, like, 12 people around? Did she go to a clinic? Because it was in the 60s.
Well, Donna said later it was because her bush was so big. That's why she had to do it on the kitchen table.
Also, let's not say good guy or bad guy, because I think that, like, that discounts people that are pro-choice that lean towards pro-life.
Well, I was just saying within the context of the movie. I wasn't saying, an antagonist versus protagonist. Same difference. I wasn't saying...
Because one
I
person
don't
believes
like
in
your
one.
black and white verbiage.
I think I know what you're saying, though, Blaze. Like, a lot of the times when there's divorced parents in a movie, you have the good parent, the supportive, cool, fun parent who lets you do what you want, and then you have the strict one. I definitely thought that in this film the mom was going to be that way because she was, like, Johnny on the spot. Like, I couldn't sleep last night, darling, so I wrote down all of these life plans for you and looked at your finances. So I found it really heartwarming when Donna does finally come to her and tell her what's going on, and it is such a great mother-daughter moment. And they finally, because the mom, like, blew her off maybe twice before that when she tries to get close to her. So you think maybe something like that'll happen again, or she's just going to shoo her away. So the fact that they include that good, because we had a lot of good bonding, like, with her friends and with her circle supporting her. It was good to see family support as well. And I know that wouldn't be realistic for everybody in her shoes. I'm glad that they included it because it was a really heartwarming moment.
Ellie, you're so good at breaking it down. That was awesome.
Well, I was going to also say, like, just to throw that out too, that is a really healing moment for somebody who might have gone through a similar situation who couldn't have that kind of moment with their parents, or with even just one parent. So I think that is kind of like another thing of handling it with respect and care, as we were saying as well, of we'll give this to you, like, and maybe you can live through this little moment on the screen.
Yeah. I do think the character of the mom was realistic. Like, she, was kind of the nagging, intrusive parent, for most of the film. And then that scene where she talked to her mom about having an abortion, she is, in the end, she's a professor in New York City. It would make sense that she's pro-choice and everything, but I liked, that was such a touching moment. Probably the best part of the film, I think, was her conversation with her mom.
Yep. That was very good.
Next I want to talk about, just because he's in the movie, David Cross, so this movie automatically gets the half a grade bump for being a Mr. Show alum. Thank you, Cole.
Cross.
Thank you,
That's
Cole. Love it. We Caitlin, you didn't know this probably, but there's a movie that we watched called Spectacular Now, and Bob Odenkirk was in it, and so I gave it the first A movie of this whole series.
Full disclosure, when I saw, did you guys see Little Women?
Yes. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So like very serious, and then Bob Odenkirk comes and is the dad, and I lost my shit laughing in the theater because I was just like, no, how is he my dad?
Yeah. Ever since like Breaking Bad, Better Call Saul, even though he was like comedic a bit in those TV shows, I feel like people have looked at him in a whole different light. Like I think he can play those serious roles now, but it's still
like,
funny to see him like that though. Yeah.
What's that one? Well, he even did like a John Wick film called Nobody or whatever, and he killed it. He was like, he got ripped and was like murking people in like a crazy action film, and I'm like, what is Bob Odenkirk doing right now? He's shooting people in the face.
Yeah.
I know we're not talking about Bob Odenkirk, but quick aside, I watched a comedy Bang Bang where he was promoting Nobody, and the only reason why he did it is because the Chinese market does not identify him as a comedian. They only identify him as a dramatic actor. So they said if you're gonna be a star in a movie, it's got to be an action movie, and that's why Bob Odenkirk.
He killed it.
Anyways, David Cross plays a comedian that apparently made it out of the slums of the
Sold a pilot.
stand-up slums. Sold a pilot, and then he invites Donna back to a house that he's sitting, and then apparently hilarity is supposed to ensue, but I didn't really understand that scene either. He starts coming on to her, even though that she said that she had already previously rejected him. So is he the embodiment of like a man who, you know, thinks now that he's made it, he can get whoever he wants, but he's also like joking the entire time, so I don't really know what his tone was. That scene was tonally off for me. Cole, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I'm like 99% sure that David Cross is supposed to be Louis C.K. in this film, because he's like a comedian that then goes and makes a pilot, makes a TV show. He then, at the end of that scene, he talks about how he's gonna jerk off and that, you know, she's gonna walk away, and he was like, I'm gonna jerk off.
Yeah.
And then the director, even in an interview, said that Louis C.K. was part of her inspiration for this movie, which was set in 2014. And then 2017, 3 years later, all this shit comes out. So I don't know if she was involved or knew about it or whatever, but it seemed like there was a lot of parallels going on between those two.
Well, from what I heard, pretty much everyone knew, like, in the comedy world, like, a lot of people knew that was going on. But either way, that's a good...
That was just you
putting that together.
That's an insane theory.
Moment, though, right? Like when she calls out Bill Cosby in 30 Rock. It's like, I could have never picked up on that the first time I watched the movie, but I think Cole's totally right. Like the second time I watched it for this, I was like, oh. And like, that's why things are worth rewatching, right? Is like for those moments, because it's just like, I was not privy with, but it was like so subversive.
Yeah.
That's great.
I wonder if David Cross knew, like, when he was playing the role, like, I'm playing Louis C.K. here, you know, like,
and he's notorious for calling people out, too, so, you know.
Yeah, he doesn't give a fuck what other people think. He's gonna do it.
You guys are gonna react so loudly, but I don't know who David Cross is.
Oh.
Tobias Fugate, at least.
Kelly,
like,
we saw him in Station 11. He was the actual, like, the professor in Station 11.
Vaguely remember.
Bad guy.
He was in Arrested Development, which I don't...
Tobias
Fugate.
Never seen? Nope.
Yeah. He is the bad guy in Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Yes!
Haven't seen that. Can you believe it?
Well, wasn't Jenny in that movie? She voice acted. Like, did a shit ton of voice acting. Jenny Slate. Yeah.
I mean, that would have been around the time. But yeah, no, and then if you ever get the chance, The Increasingly Poor Decisions of Todd Margaret is like one of my favorite short-run TV shows of all time, and you should definitely watch like all 12 episodes, because it is one of my favorite things of comedy. Anyway, so we've totally gotten derailed, so does anyone have any final thoughts on the movie, anything that I didn't discuss? Like I said, I was keeping it as broad as possible. Cole, you want to give your math and realism to this world? Or what do you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about the most important thing I learned from this film was that Hulk Hogan's real name is Terry. No idea. That blew my mind. That was one of my main takeaways or one of my main notes. So just Terry.
All you gotta do is ask
I
me.
didn't know. Who cares about what you think, Blaze?
What I think, I know his name is Terry.
Clearly, I'm replacing Blaze on this podcast.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And,
Hulk Hogan's the one that does the people's elbow, right, Blaze?
Oh, I'm gonna kill you. The atomic leg drop. He hulks up.
I know.
I also if we're going down the fun fact rabbit hole with me, it blew my mind that this movie was filmed in 18 days.
Oh,
that was
really?
crazy to me. I had no idea that they did that so fast because that was very impressive.
A lot of these indie films that are lower budget, they like Caitlin was saying, like it costs a lot of money to film, so they probably don't have a lot of time to film some of these films,
Yeah, and this movie was actually, the director and Jenny Slate made a short 20-minute film about this movie, and then it did very well, and then they were able to kind of pull it into the full feature film with A24, which I am very happy that they did, because I thoroughly enjoyed this movie.
I mean, that's part of the industry, right? It's like filmmakers make these short films that can get picked up, things like that, like another...
I mean, you got to start out small, right?
Also,
and like Ari Aster's like first film was like about a small family, and that was only I think like 20-30 minutes long before he got funding to make Midsummer.
Actually,
Hereditary shop around and show your child.
Hereditary was his first film. Oh,
that's right. That's right.
Robert Eggers, also, he started out with Paul Blart Mall Cop 2. And that now he's making The Witch.
Really?
No, I'm just kidding.
I was like, I don't think that's right.
I like the thought that his first film would be the sequel to a different film.
And then he went on to make The Witch.
Do you guys know it's on NPR? It's called Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me. It's
I know that one.
Yeah, so the guy Peter Sagal to be a screenwriter. Asked him to do. He did Dirty Dancing 2.
Really?
It bombed, but
I think I remember that bombing.
Huh.
Bombed so bad I didn't know that movie had a sequel.
Jenny Slate was confirmed. Jenny Slate was confirmed in Alvin and the Chipmunks Chipped Wrecked. So David Cross and her did work together in 2011. Confirmed.
Man, we are like 4 degrees of Kevin Bacon away. Anyways, so now that we're coming to the end of this podcast, Caitlin, what we do at the end of the film is we give our final thoughts, what we felt about the movie, and then we rank it from A plus 24 being the best movie of all time, F minus 24 being complete dog shit and you would not recommend it to your worst enemy. So Caitlin, do you want to start us off as our honorary guest?
That rating is insane. I love it. Incredible.
Thank you.
The first time I saw this movie, I saw it in theaters with 2 very close friends, and we all walked out of the film being like screaming, like wow, and like sobbing, like like making that choice is so hard, but then seeing it like depicted in a film was like celebratory, but also like kind of like sad. Like there was like all these like mixed emotions, and it was just like easy. Like it was nice to see a film where I could like finally project myself and like the decision process she made. Because it's like when we see movies, we like to see a little bit of ourselves in it, right? I think I'm like a little bit biased when it comes to it, just because like I had gone through it as like I have a BFA, Bachelor's of Fine Art. I have my master's in fine art. And so, like, I totally understand. It's like a similar struggle to stand up, but it's just like, but we also need more women in these spaces. Like, it's just so important to have that choice. And this is just a propaganda podcast because I'm here now. I just just loved it. And I also didn't think, like, the one thing we didn't really talk about was the guy she had a one-night stand with. Who, like, also we saw his struggle. Not completely, but it was, like, very cool to see that, like, male representation. Because it wasn't totally so off to the side. It was, like, very in the middle of, like, in terms of character development, which I thought was cool. And I'm looking forward to a movie to a man that is going through an abortion with his partner. Maybe A24 will do that, but I would love to see that perspective as well. I mean, my body, my choice, always, but, you know, just like being there as a supportive person, because he's not necessarily a partner. So I think like the dynamic of that is great. And I love the ending when they're just kind of like, it was never going to happen.
Yeah.
I think that's like such an incredible reality.
I think Max is the best.
Yeah.
He was awesome.
No, he was the best. Like, he was a total fucking bro.
Yeah.
And he was like so sweet about it.
One of my lines is just, is Max not the best? Like, compared to the first guy and him, like, he did everything right. I thought he was awesome.
Listen,
I mean,
you
it's a trope, though, right?
Yeah,
it's like
100%.
Donna was quote unquote weird art bro, or weird art girl, and Max was like stock market bro.
Yeah.
finance, bro.
You know?
Yeah, white finance frat bro.
Yeah, exactly. And like, there's definitely like a trope between those like things. It's like they're like. I think what works about this movie is that like they're both exotic to each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I know I'm dragging on, but I just
No, it's
about this movie. I think it's really good. Would love to see like a sequel about Max's feelings.
that would be
That'd be
great.
cool.
You know,
Let's get
because I think
Gillian.
like more men need to be in the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think that what he was shown in, he was very supportive and really respected her.
No, I think
fact
he was
that-
shown the perfect amount of time. I'm just
Yep.
as like a
Different
radical
perspective.
socialist. I would like to see that in a movie.
Oh god, this podcast is gonna get banned. All right,
Demonetized.
what's your grade? Final grade.
A24.
With music.
We need to have like we need to get one of those confetti cannons for when someone says A24. I think that's very apropos. Cole, let's go to you next.
I really enjoyed this film. I know I've mentioned it before on like probably our initials. I thoroughly enjoy like what I call slice of life like TV shows and movies that are not like way over the top and they're very like grounded in realism and make you feel what they're going through and it isn't just like crazy, insane, over the top bullshit. It's what is reality and how a lot of people's lives are. And I really like this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed every part of it, and I thought it did an excellent job covering a very touchy subject that is obviously still very touchy and heated to this day. And even though this movie came out in 2014, and this subject's been going on for apparently the 1600s. So, but man, I love this film. I would recommend this to everyone I know to watch it, whether you're pro-choice, pro-life, whatever you are, just to really understand a different perspective. Plus, at the end, I really, really liked the ending. Like I said, the whole entire time, I had like almost like a terror or like a feeling of fear that she was just not going to get the abortion and have the child and all that stuff. And I was like, thankfully, they stuck with it and they understood what they were trying to accomplish in this film and they nailed it. And I also loved kind of like the fourth wall breaking at the end where they were talking about, it's just a bunch of rom-coms. And
That's
it's
true,
like,
yeah.
wait a minute, I'm watching you right now as a rom-com. And then they switch over. I thought that was just kind of a funny like bullshit line at the end. But I'm definitely, I'm right there with Caitlin. I think this movie is a top tier A24 film, and that's the rating I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it a solid A24.
Damn.
It was awesome.
Wow.
I
Don
really-
More
DeMarco.
confetti.
Don DeMarco.
Yeah.
All
We're
right.
blowing our budget on this one, boys.
All right, we got a 4.0 average right now. Eric.
All right, well, I do really like the way they approach abortion, and I like the character of Donna and how they really built up that character to tackle this tough subject. At the same time, I did not find the script that great. I felt like there was parts where it was supposed to be making me laugh and I didn't. Like, there was a lot of poop jokes, even too much for me, and I'm someone who loves poop jokes. And then even some of the stand-up, I was like, this is very 2014 era Obama humor, a little naive before our whole world got turned upside down. Either way, I think there's not many films about abortion, and I think the way they portrayed it was just so touching. So I'm a little conflicted here, which is going to land me in the middle. I think I'm going to give it a C24.
All right. All right, Kelly.
Okay, so pretty much everything I wanted to touch on has been covered, and Eric kind of touched on what I was gonna say too. I felt like the script was lacking, and the poop jokes were killing me. And Cole, when they broke the fourth wall at the end, I was like, "That's the last straw."
Oh, come on! That way, the opposite. I was like,
But
that's what I needed.
like we have been discussing, the subject matter, I'm so glad there's a movie about it. I'm so glad that it is like a warm hug for a lot of audience, I feel. And I can appreciate that. That said, all the things that I like about it the most are not the things that make it a movie. It's the story, it's the characters. I especially love her best friend character. But it's all things that I feel like if I read a book, I would get it just as much. So the fact that it's a movie, I was thinking like camera work and music and all this kind of stuff, and nothing really stood out to me. There were a few shots that were like, that's visually striking, but that's huge to me, is how does it look and how big. And the fact that you said that it was filmed in 18 days makes a lot more sense to me now as well. So it just felt like the same thing could have been done in a different medium. And I would have taken just as much as I did. The fact that it's a movie didn't give more to me. And so for that, and I think that us talking about it put it a little higher on my list. So C plus 24 is where we're landing.
All right.
Question. What did you give Locke? I know you weren't here, but what was your rating for Locke?
I was here
She was
for
here for
Locke. I
Locke.
think
not here for Enemy.
Locke was a B minus, Enemy B.
You gave Locke a B minus and this a C.
I liked Locke.
And Locke was filmed in a car the whole time. Come on.
Yeah,
Come
true.
on.
If we're arguing about aesthetic, it's like at some point I think like a plain story just needs to be told, and if like shots get
That's fair.
over
Yeah.
told, then it's just like, oh, it's about the cinematic quality. And I just think like conceptually, like it just needed to be up like a straight up story. And I think that's like where Cole comes in, and he's like slice of life, and like when we see like a slice of life, like it's not supposed to be surreal by any means. Like those shots are all like mostly medium shots, which are like not so personable or not so personal, but like also not so far away. Like it's like within grasp, like conceptually speaking. And I like if there was like a weird like, this is also me being a cinema teacher where I'm just like constantly talking about like conceptual shots. It's just like, there's movies and like we're so used to CGI and like the sort of like, oh, it doesn't necessarily have to be like a good concept, but as long as the cinematography is good, then that's okay. But I think that there's like something really magic about just like a straight forward movie.
Sometimes you just
there was,
need the cinematography of Paul Blart Mall Cop 2.
Yeah.
You know?
Question, Caitlin. What do you think about Quentin Tarantino?
You don't want to know.
So are you pro or anti feet? That's really all I'm asking here in that question.
I teach him because I think like in Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, I'm really interested in how he uses a storyline.
There's not a lot of feet
I like that
in that movie.
Cole has a foot
there's-
fetish.
Cole has a foot
I don't have a foot fetish. Quentin Tarantino has a foot fetish, and it has been a reoccurring topic on this podcast.
Cole
That's
continually points out how many feet are in each film.
Might not be a
This is,
fetish, but it is a thing.
Shame anyone. I think Quentin Tarantino uses privilege. I think a lot of his movies are really smart, but I'm very hesitant. It's just like he's the ultimate fuckboy to come out of experimental film, and it's just like, yo, like you're just making money off simps.
Fair enough. Okay.
Could be fair.
Hi, Cole.
Yeah, Blaze, we'll go back to you after this tangent.
Yeah, kind of like what Kelly said. I feel like there's not much left to be said on how I felt about it. I think you guys, everyone said something that I felt about this movie. I did like the story. I did like the way that they handled the twist and then the non-twist. I liked the relationships. I think about Donna's relationships with her friends, and I hope that in any situation in my life, you know, my friends and family are just as supportive to me as they were to her throughout the entire movie. I like to think that
Only one person that's not supportive.
Dish the tea.
I think, again, as a movie that really lacked themes, I do think the central motif is that creative energy comes from our lowest points and that we learn from our mistakes. And, you know, everything doesn't have a fairy tale ending, and that's okay. Because everything doesn't need a fairy tale ending for everything to be okay. I think Caitlin put up a really good point that I don't think her and Max end up together. I think they end up maybe in a relationship of like friends, but they don't seem like they're built to last. And that is completely okay for me in a rom-com. So I look back, this movie came out in 2014, and it really feels like something that should be taking place in 2022 because it really feels like a pantheon of you know, women writers, women comics, women's point of view, and it really helped me get to understand the difficult process that is abortion, wrapped up in other trials and tribulations in someone's life.
So
Yo,
I think
you can still like fuck and not talk to them ever again.
That's true too. That is absolutely. I'm talking about the movie though. I can only get based off the movie. The soundtrack was lacking. I really did like that drum beat in Obvious Child, Little on the Nose, by Paul Simon. I actually had to look that up, and I listened to it again. I really liked that song. And then, yeah, the camera work was kind of drab, but I also think that it was intentionally that way. There wasn't a lot of interesting angles, and it was really just everything came through the dialogue, whether it was improv or scripted. So I'm going to give it the David Cross half a letter grade bump. So it was going to be a C+ like Kelly, but I'm going to end up giving it a B, solid B24. I really like it. I would really recommend it to anyone throughout their, whatever their belief is, because I think it really humanitizes what the civil process is.
So my brother now.
So that's going to wrap up this week's episode. I would like to thank Caitlin for everything that she did. I'm so glad you came on. We had a little Discord problem at the beginning. Eric, do you know what next week is?
I think The Rover. With Robert Pattinson.
I fucking love this movie. I'm pumped.
My ultimate man crush, Robert Pattinson. I might not be able to make it through the film.
What?
God, I love this film.
Am
I hosting this one? Can I host it? Am I hosting? I want to host it. We should let me host it.
I think you are. Yeah, you are hosting it.
I think it just ends up that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, God loves me. He chose me.
You were chosen. Your mom chose you.